Hello, I'm Toycat and welcome back to the second channel geography video. This is a series where I talk about geography and the world and stuff. And today, I think I would take a small break from the huge deep dives I've been doing on this channel, the half an hour plus videos. I think they're a lot of fun, I think they have value, and I enjoy doing them, most importantly of all. But I figured why not take a small break from that and make a short video on something which a lot of people are surprised I haven't covered already. Because you might guess from the fact that I like a lot of countries that are in the Commonwealth, that I find the Commonwealth to be quite the interesting thing. This is the Commonwealth's flag, by the way. You might not have ever seen it. And this is the Commonwealth countries. They're 53 countries which are in a kind of union in a really indirect way. It's like a UN body, but only for basically former British Empire states. And a lot of people figure, why won't you talk about that? And the truth is, it's not a hugely important, thing in the modern world, but I figured let's talk about it regardless to talk about exactly what the deal is with countries that have left it, because there's so many interesting, facets of countries that have joined it and why they're in there and why not. And I think you learn a little bit off that in the countries that have left. Maybe in the future, we could do a deep dive video into each of the 53 countries that are currently there, but let's talk about the 3 countries that have left, as well as the countries that left to join another country, because I think those are kind of interesting regardless. So with that said, let's dive straight into it with the very first country that left the Commonwealth, because it was Ireland in 1949. So Ireland was the first country to leave the Commonwealth. It was founded towards the beginning of the 19th century as kind of a way to keep some form of a link between the ex-British Empire countries. The winds were blowing off independence or decolonization or whatever word you want to call it, but the winds were blowing in that direction, so the Commonwealth was kind of created as a way to tie the countries together with the British monarch. The monarch was always going to be, like in the UK at the time, kind of this ceremonial position. There could be one thing that tied them all together. However, Ireland decided to become a republic, and this was before the rules were changed a couple of years later to make it so you could be a republic within the Commonwealth. And Ireland decided to become a republic and have their own president, which would have all of the duties which the king at the time of the UK currently had. And because of that, they had to leave the Commonwealth, and they weren't really too upset with leaving the Commonwealth, because again, Ireland, the UK, that whole relationship they have. It's the people very much hate each other, but I think from most levels of above the conflicts or whatever, again, they're very close nations, and seeing Ireland leave is sad to some British people, sad to some Irish people. But again, the reality of it was Ireland wanted to do something. If they had to leave the Commonwealth, it wasn't that big of an objection. They weren't as invested as most other countries in it, and that is why Ireland left the Commonwealth to become a republic. And interestingly enough, one of the reasons that they're called the Republic of Ireland, despite that not being their official name, is because Ireland is referred to in a lot of documents around the world and by the Commonwealth as the Republic of Ireland, as a kind of denotation that it changed from being Ireland to the Republic when they became a republic. So just a fun little fact for you right there, maybe you like that. Second country to leave the Commonwealth was Zimbabwe in 2003. So Zimbabwe, I either need to explain everything to you or nothing to you, and I don't think either one fits too well in this video, so let's just go very briefly through it and say that yeah, Zimbabwe has a whole bunch of issues, mostly relating to Robert Mugabe, who was in power for a solid 20 years and only stepped down last year, and the current power struggle, you've seen something about it on the news, I'm sure, but today we can't go over the entire history of it, and just I'll briefly say that lots of bad things went down during his reign. He came to power in a populist kind of uprising, and basically to do so, a lot of the things they did breached the racial equality rules of the Commonwealth, breached rules on various different rule of laws, etc. And because of that, also by the way, funnily enough, the rules he breached were all set out in the Harare Declaration, which is the capital of Zimbabwe. They broke, and these rules were put into place not as oh, we're going to kick Zimbabwe out. They were put into place as soon as South Africa ended their apartheid, and it's okay, we have no countries which have systematic oppression of a race. Okay, let's put racial equality as a rule in the law, and and then after that, Zimbabwe kind of went the other way from South Africa and did superiority of the native Zimbabwe as opposed to the white farmers. They took a lot of land, they caused a lot of poverty as a result, because just taking land and giving it to people that you like vaguely isn't a better idea than letting farmers have the land. And yeah, long story short, lots of starvation, lots of problems, and lots of hyperinflation, which is why the joke about the Zimbabwe dollar and how you need $1 trillion to buy nothing, because they had hyperinflation as a result of lots of economic problems of a populist government which just blames the capitalist elite countries and the white people in the other people, which is just, as a solution, not a very good idea. As a political idea, you sure blame someone, but as you want to fix your country, maybe work on fixing it. Don't just pick people to blame and call them the worst people ever. And yeah, that's why Zimbabwe has a lot of problems to this day, and why there's a lot of emigration from Zimbabwe, which is why I have a Zimbabwean friend who lives in the UK and has never lived elsewhere and doesn't intend to return. Just Fun little fact for you right there, in case you think, oh, you're just saying that. No, I have a black Zimbabwean friend who is like, his like family life was destroyed by Zimbabwe, and that really sucks if you're a Zimbabwean. So they left in 2003. However, the Maldives left in, I think it was 2016, very, very, very recently. So the reason Maldives left is kind of interesting, actually. So Maldives was a British, part of the British Empire until 1965, and when they left, they kind of went into a autocratic form of rule. So, a man, basically just call it a dictator, but not quite. Again, dictator is a very harsh word. Think dictator light, I guess, is a simple way to put that. And yeah, the Maldives went into that, and they started to head towards democracy around the time of the Harare Declaration. However, as soon as they had democracy, they started kind of returning back the way they went, and because of that, the Commonwealth made lots of statements saying like, hey, how about democracy again? We're all democratic countries here. How about you fix that? And the Maldives was like, nah, what are you doing? Why are you saying we're not democratic? What? And they put a statement out before they left saying, we do not think that the Commonwealth of Nations are correctly recognizing just how democratic we really are compared to how we used to be. Which again, technically true. They are more democratic now than they used to be. It's just they're not heading in the right direction. They're trending back towards the lack of democracy, which is a big issue in the Maldives. However, Maldives is doing very well as a country regardless of that, because the number of tourists they bring in, high-paying tourists, works out for them, which is why, interestingly enough, they're one of those few examples where it's like, they're doing everything wrong, and it's somehow just about working out for them. And there's the Maldives for you. Simple explanation. Again, I'm simplifying a lot of history into a short video, because that's what this is. This is a somewhat short video. Next up, we'll talk about the 4 countries which were in the Commonwealth and then left to become part of another country. So, for instance, Malaya, British Malaya, was a British Empire colony that went independent as Malaya, but then eventually formed the Federation of Malaysia. So the Federation of Malaysia was Malaya, which is the peninsula here, the 2 states on the island of Borneo. Over here, as you can see, this is Malaysia. It's not very clear, but this is Malaysia, I assure you. And then also Singapore. Obviously, Singapore left, is now its own independent country, but the Federation of Malaya was these 3 things combined into one, which meant Malaya was no longer a Commonwealth member, because the Federation of Malaysia was. And then again, like I said, though that split into 2 countries, Malaysia and Singapore, Malaysia being the much bigger one by land, and Singapore being the bigger one by GDP per capita. They're a very, 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 very rich country, and, heart Singapore or whatever. So with that said, that's one of the examples. The other 2 examples are Tanzania, which was I always get it mixed up, but this country right here, as well as Zanzibar. So I mentioned this in the Tanzania fun fact video, but yeah, Tanganyika, I don't want to butcher it too much, but basically those 2 countries merged together, and because of that, they lost their individual Commonwealth membership and became Tanzania. Stronger, bigger, and I mean quite literally bigger, and all the good things that you might want from a British colony. So next up, we have the final country which left the Commonwealth, but just to join another thing, because Newfoundland, as the Dominion of Newfoundland, or Newfoundland, I believe is how you actually say it, but can we just agree to call it Newfoundland? No, we can't. Okay, so Newfoundland, which is this area right here, it's an island a lot of people forget about, actually. It's one of the closest points off Canada, and indeed of North America, to the UK. This is how close it is to Ireland. It's 3,000 kilometers. Seriously, the distance is pretty absurd. It was one of the first countries to leave the Commonwealth to join another country, because Canada unified all of the provinces, the 10 of them, I believe at the time, all unified together and became Canada, as opposed to just British North American holdings that were all separate colonies. They all kind of came together and they created a federal state, which is a cool thing, right? And Canada is a country you know and love today, and Newfoundland went from being Newfoundland to Newfoundland and Labrador. Funnily enough, Labrador Peninsula, which is, by the way, this is Labrador right here, is featured in BoJack Horseman, and although they make a joke about it being like loads of Labradors, it's a real place. This is the Labrador Peninsula. It's not all in Newfoundland and Labrador. It's just most of the occupied bits are, because most of Labrador, past a certain point, is just native Inuit people. I'm pretty sure that's not an offensive term, but people who live there natively. There's just loads of tiny villages where very few people live. Again, look at this. This is a settlement where there's this little going on, and with no connection to the outside world, because Canada has a lot of those going on. So before we end today's video, I am going actually to Canada very, very, very soon, in just a couple of days, because I have a very cheap ticket. It was less than $50 to go from London to Nova Scotia to Newfoundland and then back to Ireland. It was, again, $50 for that ticket. I booked it. I'm pretty sure it was a mistake. In fact, I'm 100% sure it was probably a mistake. I'm going to be vlogging it, but if you want to meet me and you live in either St. John's or Halifax, again, I'm going to be in both those cities for less than a day. Make sure you hit me up, ibx2cat@gmail.com. If you just have any tips, if you have any things like that, I like reading them, so I can't guarantee a response, but if you want to meet me or you have any tips, ibx2cat@gmail.com. So yeah, there you go, less than 10 minutes, Geography of Toy Cat video. Did I speak too fast, too slow, too little information, too much? Let me know, but I'll see you all next time. Goodbye. Nailed it. Nailed it.